Now, investors are also watching for a potential government shutdown with time running out for lawmakers. So far, there is no solution, and the deadline is now just 2 days away. John Quelch has this.
This October might be a little more spooky than usual in the U.S.
Mr. President, do you think the government shutdown is inevitable?
I don't think anything is inevitable in politics.
Funding for the government expires on Sunday, the 1st of October, and right now there's no plan in place to prevent that.
Every day I walk in this place, I have confidence. You know why? Because we're America. We will solve the problems before us, and every day will be better than the day before. Some days you stumble, and some days you get better.
The White House is calling on House Republicans to back the Senate's bipartisan stopgap bill that would temporarily keep the government running with a continuing resolution.
Speaker McCarthy needs to stop letting the MAGA radicals drive his decisions and do the obvious and sensible thing. Follow the Senate's lead and pass a bipartisan CR to prevent this reckless shutdown.
But some members of the House GOP aren't showing signs of compromise.
If the folks in my district want somebody who's just going to come here and vote for continuing resolutions and omnibus bills, they've had other choices in other elections, but they chose to send me, and I'm here to fight. Among
the potential impacts of a shutdown, active military members and Border Patrol agents will go without pay. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
For more on this and the economy, of course, John Quelch, a professor at the Miami Herbert Business School. Good to see you, John. And he says we're here to fight, but I don't think that's what Americans want, and I certainly don't think that's what the global investor community wants, is a fight on Capitol Hill that would essentially shut down Washington. Now, this is a little bit different than the debt ceiling debate because this is about the fiscal side, so I think that's important to note as well.
I think it is important because I think with the economy relatively strong at the moment, Phil, vis-a-vis expectations, it is actually empowering, I think, the Republican right wing to be more aggressive on this government shutdown threat to try to force spending reductions on the part of the Biden administration. Yes, we have a fight on our hands. A continuing resolution situation. This is less serious than the debt issue that we dealt with 2 or 3 months ago. But nevertheless, as your report indicated, well over 2 million military service members and reservists, as well as air traffic controllers, border protection personnel, are all going to be without pay if this shutdown takes place.
Right.
By the way, many of those people vote Republican when it comes to general elections and state elections.
There are two thoughts to this. Either this is a for television show and it's very short-lived and both sides can claim victory, or we have a very serious disagreement where we're not going to have any short-term agreements and this drags on through October and November. Which one is it?
I think it's more the latter, unfortunately. I think that the balance of power is such that within the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives, the balance of power and the thin majority that they collectively have is empowering this minority of folks who want to really grandstand and push for very, very significant, impossible, in fact, reductions in government spending in the short term, empowering them to make Speaker McCarthy's job extremely difficult.
Well, it's impossible.
Don't count Speaker McCarthy out. He's pulled rabbits out of the hat before, but longer term, I think your diagnosis is correct. This situation is going to drag on, and there are going to be more scenarios similar to what we're facing at the moment before we get through to the 24.
I mean, just real quick, are you saying that by Sunday night we will have a shutdown?
I'm gonna put a 40% probability on a shutdown and a 60% on a CR because we know that Washington folks love staying up until the wee hours of the morning and making the 11th hour deal, which makes them feel like heroes, even though the rest of us think that it looks pretty dumb.
Well, let me shift gears and let's talk about something perhaps a little bit more positive, and that's the U.S. economy. In the last Federal Reserve meeting, it was very clear that Chairman Powell said the GDP, or at least the economy, seemed to be stronger than they had expected, and I think in general we would all agree, given the number of rate hikes. Where does this put, not necessarily the Fed, but where does this say about the state of the economy? We're going to get consumer confidence numbers coming out. We've seen some softening in some areas. I just don't know that if it's going, it will be meaningful enough for us to change the narrative.
The labor market is still tight. The unemployment claims are not that significantly higher this time around. Inflation still remains stubborn. As I've said before, Phil, I'm in the camp that expects a further quarter-point rate increase in November. The chairman is on the record regarding his objective of getting us back to 2% steady state inflation, and I believe that he's not going to deviate from that.
But here's where I would push back on this, is that we're seeing gas prices now at $6, $7. I'm specifically talking about the West Coast, but overall, we've seen a fairly significant spike. That's not going to help inflation. We haven't seen any significant reductions to prices of goods that people, you and I spend. In fact, Costco, in its latest numbers, said that the average ticket prices in terms of receipts were down 3%. It proves that consumers are being more careful, as Karina said, that we're being more careful about what we spend. Why are we not seeing perhaps a more elevated level of savings, because the spending still remains high?
Well, I think we're still working through the pent-up savings and the post-COVID consumption jump. We're also seeing, by the way, Phil, we're also seeing credit card companies now offering very attractive interest rates for new card holders in terms of those who don't revolve their accounts every month. The interest rates are not going to be as onerous as they have been historically. But overall, I think the consumer is softening, is slowing down. But to your point on inflation, you know, I passed a gas station today with regular at $3.75, and you know, what those folks pay in California is up to them, but it's not reflective of the nation. And on top of that, Phil, you know, the housing market has moderated considerably, and rents have stabilized, if not in some cases pulled back somewhat. So although, as you say, food prices still seem egregious and energy costs in some states are high, there are other sectors of the economy, including the important housing sector, where things are stabilized.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother conversation. Be careful, Professor. You don't want all those Californians moving near your way to Miami. Appreciate you on this analysis. Well, thank you.
Phil, I just want to mention that fortunately for Florida, Texas is there in between California and Florida, and that's an easy stopover.
All right, well noted. Thank you.
Okay.